So hopefully you guys have read over the Project One web icon outline, and I just want to give you some tips for setting up your file for this particular project. So anyways, I'm on the opening page for Illustrator, and I'm going to create a new document. So I could do Command and N, or I could just click on this button. So the first thing I'm going to do is set the type of document I need to make. In this case, we're making web icons. So I'll choose the web setting. And so that by default, change my color mode to an RGB setting. And right here, I'll give it a name. I know that I need to work on my outline or my glyph icons first. So I'll write outline icons. Now, if you remember from the project outline, there's quite a few different pixel dimensions you can use for these outlines. I'm going to, in this case, use a 96 pixel by 96 pixel artboard. But if you were working in glyphs, you could use 64 by 64, or if you're doing more detailed icons, you might want to work at 128 pixels squared. So the orientation will be fine for this because it is a square artboard, but since we are making 3 types of the same icon for this particular file, I need to change this to be 3 artboards. And one more thing I'm going to do for the arrangement of the artboards is I'll come down here to where it says More Settings. And if you're working in an older version of Illustrator, you won't even have to go through this channel to get to this. I'm going to change how it's going to tile or arrange the artboards. I'm going to choose this one right here. It's just going to read from left to right, and then everything else is good. So I'll go ahead and create this. Okay, and here we see we have 3 artboards where I will draw my icons. Just a few more things I want to do to ensure that I have kind of a solid setup for this drawing. I'll just go up here to Document Setup, and I'll make sure the units are in pixels, which they are. And then I'll go back to my Artboard tool. And if you remember from the artboard lesson, I'm going to go ahead and put some margins on that artboard, just so I know as I'm creating these icons, I kind of want to have a mark showing me the furthest extent I should be going when making this. So that'll be this most outside line. I'll go ahead and do that for these other ones as well. Okay, the other thing I want to do when I'm working on this file is I want to make sure that all of my lines and everything I'm drawing is snapping to the pixel grid. We'll go over the pixel grid in just a second. I'm going to go up here to View, and I'm just going to make sure that my snap to pixel is on. If you have snap to point or snap to grid on, you can go ahead and turn those off because we just want the snap to pixel on. I'll go ahead and open up my preferences, so Command and K. And I'm going to change a couple of these settings here. I want my keyboard increment to be 1 pixel. I'm going to come over here to the selection and anchor display and make sure my tolerance is at 1 pixel. Next I'll go to my units and just check to make sure that the system is working in pixels. And then I'll come to my guides and grid. And here I'm going to make sure that there's a grid line every 1 pixel. So if this has a different value, just put in 1 and enter and make sure that we're moving, or we have a grid that is in 1 pixel increments. The subdivisions are up to you. These are kind of the smaller lines in between each pixel. I'm just going to keep this at 2. And then the other thing I'm going to uncheck is the grids in back. I want to make sure that when I turn on my grid, I see it in front of all the objects that I'm working on. I'll go ahead and click OK. And I'll go ahead and kind of demonstrate what I was talking about with the pixel grid. As I'm drawing, anywhere I click is snapping to a point that would be on a pixelated grid. Okay, so it's not allowing me to put a point on anything that is not aligned with that. Now, just so you know, the pixel grid works the best with the horizontal and vertical lines. Anytime you start adding different angles or curves, becomes interpreted differently along the pixelated grid. So that's why it's important to match the size of your artboard in pixels to the type of drawing you're going to do. I'll go ahead and turn on my grid. So I'll do Command and comma, and then I'll zoom in a little bit. And here you can see on all of the horizontal and vertical elements that they are lined up on that pixel grid. Could even start drawing more, and you can see that it snaps anywhere there is the corner of a pixel. And I'll go ahead and turn off that grid, so Command and comma again. Okay, so that's all for now. Check out my other videos with some other tips and tricks